Thanks very much, Presiding Officer. I think you'll find that the SNP members in the committee agreed with substantial critical elements in the report. And so the offensive comments by Mr Hoy and Bibby are pretty disgraceful, but sadly not unexpected these days from these two parties. Mr Hoy could have said what he said about me and my colleague Colin Beattie at any time at all, but said not a word. Tawdry and cowardly, Mr Hoy. He also has a brass neck, Presiding Officer, in any case, since he had decided to conduct his own inquiry halfway through our committee's work, while still pretending to remain objective. A minor comment to Mr Whittle about the famous painted windows. They were done at the request of the workers, nobody else. The workers wanted the ship to look as best it could for that particular occasion. So to level that at the government is just ridiculous. Now, I'll listen to you without any comment, Mr Hoy. So you do me the same courtesy, for once, just for once. Show some courtesy and respect.
Mr Coffey, we need to not refer to you, because that's me, and I don't think you're referring to me. So, through the chair, Mr Coffey.
My abiding memory of the evidence sessions we had on this issue was the conflicting nature of most of it, and the difficulty we all had in deciding who and what to believe. Inevitably, the risk is that you end up citing, no thank you. Did you hear me say no thank you?
Mr Simpson, I think Mr Coffey has made it quite clear that he's not taking the intervention. Mr Coffey.
Inevitably, Presiding Officer, the risk is that you end up citing and emphasising the evidence that suits the political narrative that developed around the project. And that's a loss, in my view, to the overall purpose of audit and the obligation we have to the public to try and get to the bottom of things. The workers' reps at Ferguson's agreed, when we met them last October, that the Scottish Government's decision to award the contract saved the yard, saved hundreds of jobs and saved shipbuilding in the Clyde. And most of us will agree with that. Curiously, that didn't manage to feature in the committee's report of our meeting, but it's worth putting this on record, because it was Mr Hoy who asked him the question. Presiding Officer, if you want to try and get close to the reasons behind the delays to the ferries and the cost overrun, then we should ask the people who know the most, the workers and the current management team charged with delivering the ferries to completion. In their testimony to the committee, you'll see those answers fairly clearly. When we spoke to the workers' reps, they were clear that the problems occurred at the outset with the original management team's decisions and lack of consultation with the skilled workforce, who have many years' experience in successfully building ships in the Clyde. They said that due to the size of the contract for the two vessels, the yard would never be able to accommodate the two ferries at the same time. And with the significant changes required to reconfigure the yard, it was going to be impossible to meet those original timescales. This was confirmed again last week at the committee by the Chief Executive, David Tideman, who said that the mistakes made by the original FMEL in 2015 and FMPG in 2019 in relation to design management, build sequencing and contracting strategies effectively embedded unrecoverable delays into the programme. So the big questions for all the partner agencies is, why did no one spot this at the outset and intervene to try and correct it? And I'm on record, my colleagues are on record, asking that question of the government and its agencies. One or two worrying aspects that stood out for me was the build sequencing, some of which seemed to be done purely to trigger payments, rather than making sense in the construction process. And our predecessor, Rural Economy Committee, noted this in their report in the previous session. There were also various milestones along the way that were not tied to quality delivery. Presiding Officer, in my role as a member of the Audit Committee and with some experience to draw on over many years in management systems and quality processes, it seems obvious to me that an essential part of any tendering process is that you conduct a full capability assessment on anyone wanting to deliver work for you. It's surely not enough to accept a tender without fully examining the capability of the contract bidder to deliver the order to the quality required and within the timescales and budget agreed. The committee recorded this important finding in our report. Presiding Officer, if you don't get the project specification correct at the start, then it's unlikely you will deliver anything in time and on budget at the end. a maxim in any construction process, whether it's ships, bridges, schools or anything else you intend to build. And that's one lesson that our committee has pointed to for many years. At the Audit Committee, our focus is principally on following the public pound and holding not only the government, but its agencies and delivery partners to account for how that money is spent. At the end of our inquiry, despite our best efforts collectively, even we as a committee couldn't reach a conclusion about how substantial parts of the £128 million referred to by the convener had been spent. And I pay tribute to my friend and colleague Colin Beattie for his forensic scrutiny of that on behalf of the committee. I do know the Auditor-General is still considering that issue, and our committee will await his decision on whether he can continue to pursue this further. Presiding Officer, in summary, this has been an extremely difficult inquiry for all of the members of the committee. We don't have direct expertise in shipbuilding and rely on those we invite in front of us to offer accurate testimony to help us in our scrutiny process. Inevitably, as I said earlier, the political dimension dominated the majority of the narrative around it and still does, much to the anger of the workers. And it's making it difficult to reach a consensus that would, in my view, have given us a stronger report for Parliament. All of the parties involved have lessons to learn, particularly to ensure that projects are rigorously defined at the outset. That's the key to success, in my view. I remain hopeful that the current management team, led by the excellent Mr Tideman and the magnificent workers at Ferguson's, are allowed to get on with the job of completing these vessels for us and the public they are intended to serve. Thank you.